dealing with this COVID-19 and what we have done to assist our members in dealing this COVID-19 pandemic, and some of the implementation that we have conducted throughout the pandemic crisis. So hold on. So the topic that I would like to discuss today is the management of COVID-19 from the perspective of the implementer. When I say implementer, it's the employer, because if you're talking about implementation at the workplace, then employers are responsible to conduct all the arrangement, all the management of this COVID-19 and to protect the workers. So this would be my presentation, looking into some of the hurdles, some of the sweat and difficulties faced by the employers' society when we are dealing with COVID-19. Okay, for those who are not familiar with Malaysian Employers Federation, we are the employers organization, which is a society, an organized society that represent employers in the country. We talk to the government about the interests of employers. We talk to the other partners in terms of the interests and stake of employers in Malaysia. Currently we have 6,100 ordinary members, meaning individual companies, which is under our banner, and we do have 27 affiliates, meaning other organization representing employers. We do have the affiliates from the associations of hotel, securities, and many more. Currently we have 2.8 million employees under these 6,100 ordinary members, and to manage 2.8 million people is not an easy task for our member company. So our function is to look into the matters arising from the issues of managing employees at the workplace. So we assist our 6,100 members in dealing with human resource issues, industrial relation issues, and also occupational safety and health. So we deal with such a discipline, human resource, industrial relation, and safety and health. And the most critical function of us is to assist our members in dealing with legal requirement, because being a company, if you don't follow the legal requirement, then sooner or later you will be in trouble with the law, and that will have a lot of implication to your business. And so our function is to assist the employers in complying with the legal requirements. And in terms of COVID-19, since February this year, we have been assisting our members in implementing all the SOPs, all the procedures, all the instruction directive by the government. This includes SOCSO, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Human Resource, and also MITI. And dealing with a lot of ministries and institutions is not an easy task, because every single government agency, they came out with their own instructions and SOP. So it will be difficult. It is a difficult task for employers to comply with all the instruction by the agencies, but we try as much as possible to make sure that our members are able to conform to the SOP by the agencies. And our president of MEF also have urged and pledged our members as much as possible try to comply with the directive SOP being instructed by the government, because we are in this COVID-19 together, and we need to as much as possible conform to whatever instruction SOPs being gazetted by the government. Okay, and I've been with the organization for a long time, and I deal with our members on a daily basis, because every time the National Security Council, Majlis Keselamatan Negara mengeluarkan arahan baru, then it is one of our duty to issue circulars to our members and try to assist them in complying with the SOPs. And as far as my engagement with the employers organization, with companies, I can see that the companies are trying very hard to comply with the instruction given by the government. So this is my general view, that we have good employers in Malaysia. They are trying to do as much as possible to comply with the government's instruction, because they know that COVID-19 is a serious matter. It can jeopardize the life of the employees. So they are trying very hard to comply with the government instruction in dealing with this COVID-19. Okay, so far since 28 January up to this date, up to November, MEF has issued 43 circulars. We have issued 43 circulars to our members on government directive, on ministries directive, including SOPs from Majlis Keselamatan Negara and other instruction by the ministry. So you can see on my slide here, we have issued 15 circulars to our members on National Security Council, SOP daripada Majlis Keselamatan Negara, dan juga apa-apa arahan daripada Perdana Menteri. Setakat ini 15, we have circulated 15 circulars. On Ministry of Health guidelines, document and the regulation being imposed on the employers, so far we have circulated 4 circular. And other initiative by the government, because since we have this COVID-19 crisis, the economy is going really bad. So far we have issued 8 initiatives by the government in stimulating the economy. So we have 8, we have issued 8. And on SOCSO initiative, on the swab test program and workers retention scheme, we have issued 5. And circular on MITI reporting, because companies are required by law to issue reporting, to report to MITI. It used to be daily basis. Whatever COVID-19 prevention program at the workplace, the employer need to report to DOSH in particular on a daily basis. But after a while, it was changed into weekly basis. So far we have issued 3 circulars on that, and other guideline issued by DOSH, WHO, and the other one is by ILO. We have issued 4, and we also have conducted 4 surveys on this COVID-19 so far, to look at the impact to employers' organization, to companies, whether they can still strive for the business, whether the business is going down, whether they are still afloat, all of those issues. We have conducted in total 4 surveys. In total, we have circulated 43 circulars so far on COVID-19 alone. So it dominates the whole circular that we have issued to our member companies. So when you issue circular, and the circular is disseminated to the employers, the problem is in the process of implementation. Some employers can easily implement the circular, because they have the resources and some don't, because 50%, I can say more than 50% of our member companies are small medium enterprises. So sometimes they do have difficulties in complying with the COVID-19 instruction especially under the National Security Council. These are examples. I didn't list down all, but these are some examples of circular that we have issued to our members. For example, number 1 there, you can see this is on MCO, Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan. So this is among the early circulars that we have circulated to our members on how to respond to this MCO. Whether or not you need to go to the office or can you work from home, what are the issues, industrial relation issues, human resource issues, even if you go to the office, whether or not the people can work safely. So those are some of the content of this circular that we issue to members. Another example, number 2 here, this is a media release by the National Security Council on Prime Minister's announcement on the outbreak, and this one is more on the extension of how long the MCO will be enforced. So these are some examples that of the circulars that we have issued to our members. Okay, and then we have also issued circulars on frequently asked question which is issued in the ministry website, and we do share it with our members. Specific question and answers by the minister, and we share this with our member companies. So in total we have circulated around 43 circulars to our. This is our main communication with our members, because our members are scattered throughout Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, and also in the peninsula. So no way we can have a one-to-one kind of communication. So the best is to issue circulars through email, and once they have obtained all the circulars, they read it, and if they have any question, then they normally come to us and discuss by phone. Normally it's by phone. They come to us, they contact us by phone, and we can discuss with them in further detail of the circulars that we have issued. Okay, so this is our manpower that we have in the Secretariat of MEF. In total, including myself, we have 10 consultants, and all these 10 consultants must deal with industrial relation issues, human resources issues, and OSH issues, and most of the OSH issues comes to me because I deal and communicate with SOCSO, Ministry of Human Resource, DOSH, and other players in terms of OSH. The rest, if it is an industrial relation, then we have around nine other consultants to deal with the issue. So we are open every day, meaning our phone is active every day, so the members of MEF can call us and discuss pertaining to issues of industrial relation, human resource, and also OSH. But most of the OSH question will come to me. And it's our job on a daily basis to assist our members in the implementation part, especially in understanding the circulars and how to comply with all the instruction by the government. So this is our daily work to assist our members in the discipline of industrial relation, human resource, and also OSH. And most of the communication with our members is to clarify what does the government mean by this? What does the government mean by this, and so on? Do we have a specific terminology for this? How do we operationalize it? Also, those all are some of the questions that come to us from our member companies. And on behalf of the company, normally the one that we deal with is human resource directors. Human resource directors, and sometimes also the safety and health committee members, in particular the safety and health officer, officer of the company. And we do, as I have mentioned, we do conduct surveys, and these surveys normally are more on the concern of the employers, what we need to do as a group of employers, and if the issue is critical, then normally the Secretariat, MEF, will issue a letter to the government, to the respective department, to to express the concern of the employers. For example, I can still recall in the beginning of this crisis, DOSH requested every company to report to DOSH on a daily basis on COVID-19 prevention program, and to us it was cumbersome. It was very difficult because we are still dealing with the pandemic. We need to ensure that the SOP are set up in the company at the company level, and at the same time we have to spend our valuable time to report to DOSH. And to us this was cumbersome and difficult, and we did we issued a letter to DOSH to say that this is not practicable for all member companies, all companies to report to DOSH on a daily basis. But DOSH, as any other government, they insist that it was to be done on a daily basis until I think it was June, whereby they changed from daily basis reporting to a weekly basis. And so now we have no choice but still have to report to DOSH on a weekly basis through the MITI platform, MITI website platform. Up to this date, we are still requesting our members to respond, to report their daily activity, weekly activities on COVID-19 prevention program to DOSH. But that's what the government wants, then we have to do. But can you imagine if one company is spending 50 minutes on that reporting on a daily basis? And how many companies, how many establishments do we have in Malaysia? 500,000, for example. 500,000 companies need to spend 10 minutes on just reporting to DOSH, which does not give any benefit to us as employers organization, because we have to spend that time. We are supposed to spend that time more on doing other productive measure, but unfortunately that what the government wants us to report, then we have to report. So this to us was cumbersome, and we did a protest, and lucky somehow DOSH changed from daily reporting to weekly reporting. So now it's weekly reporting. Still time need to be spent. Companies need to spend their time on this, which to us is unnecessarily. Okay, these are some of the issues faced by the employers. When I say by the employer, our members, there are 6,000 plus members that came to us to discuss on the specific requirements or element in the SOP. It can be either SOP by DOSH, it can be SOP by National Council, it can be an SOP by SOCSO and also by MITI. So they come to us to discuss, not to protest, but how to implement. And the issue that we have, so far, all the National Security Council SOP is in Bahasa Melayu. The SOP is in Bahasa Melayu, and we have to bear in mind that not all companies are well versed with Bahasa Melayu, because they prefer English language. So to us, in a crisis, to respond to a crisis, it is important to let everybody understand what is the direction and directive, instruction, and so on. So we see that this is not happening at the National Security Council, whereby all the instructions are in Bahasa Melayu. For those who have local directors, then they are quite okay. But for those who are expatriate, then having the SOP in Bahasa Melayu sometimes it's a bit difficult for them to not that they don't want to implement, that they need time to understand it, and sometimes they have to do their own translation and so on in order to understand the whole picture of the SOP. So this is an issue that I believe if we can improve, we can have both version in Bahasa Melayu and also in English. It will be a lot of help, because remember, in any crisis, the critical part is time, and we don't have time. So if we want to follow instruction and the instruction is not in the language that we understand, then we are delaying time of response. This is not encouraged in any crisis. So for us as an employers federation, then if possible we need to have all the SOPs in two versions. Of course, acknowledging Bahasa Melayu as the national language. We respect that. We have that in Bahasa. But why not the National Council have another one in English? This is at the National Security Council level. I did a look into SOPs by Ministry of Health. The guidelines are more, they have both. They have English version, they have Bahasa version. So it's quite easy for us, employers, to look into. Same goes to the other agencies. Some they do have in English. But at the National Security Council, which is the highest level, it is only in Bahasa. Then when it comes to us, even at our level, MEF, we had to translate some of the document just for the interest of our members. Okay, and then we do have issues whereby the terminologies are not clear. And when terminologies are not clear, either our members have their own definition or they are hesitant to implement because they don't understand. For example, work from home, there's no clear definition. What do you mean by work from home? Can I work from home in Sabah? I have a house in Sabah, whereas the office may be in Kuala Lumpur, but I have a house in Sabah. Can I work from Sabah, for example? And what do you mean by home? Is it, so this is the issue. When you say work from home, what do you mean by working from home? What is the scope of application of working at home? Can I work at someplace else rather than my house, rather than my home? Can I work in a Starbucks, for example? So these are the issues that is not clear in our SOP that, of course, we can improve in terms of terminology. When you say something is a red zone, what do you mean by red zone? Is it just the numbers of cases, or does it have any interrelation with quarantine? When a place is considered as a red zone, does it also inflict that we need to have some kind of quarantine? And so these are the issues that our members raise to us, because some of the terminologies, especially critical terminologies, are not clear, and it is going to be very difficult for the employers to implement. Because when a terminology is not clear, then people have their own ideas. People have their own terminology, but it can be contradicting the understanding or the intent of the instruction. So these are the issues that we see throughout the crisis. And then we do have some SOP being issued by certain quarters in conflict with another SOP, and both are authorities. For example, we do have instruction by DOSH, and at the same time, for the same arrangement, we do have another instruction by Ministry of Health. But when we study the two, we can't really operationalize, because one institution is asking us to do A and the other institution is asking us to do B. So when we have that conflict, it's going to be very difficult for the employers to implement. So we do hope that in the near future we can improve this, whereby any SOP are being corroborated by the Majlis Negara or by whoever it is in the government, so that whenever the instructions are out and being implemented by the employers, it is easy, it is practical to execute. But unfortunately, for the time being, we do still have some hiccups for the employers to implement certain instruction. And then response time by hotline. Here we're talking about the hotline being established by the government. Sometimes when we call the hotline, even the hotline operators are not yet clear, or can't even give a holistic or clear definition or clear instruction, because they are not yet being informed by the higher rank. So these are the issues. There was one time we have this PKPB, I think it was PKPB, conditional, I think it was enhanced conditional movement control order for the district of Klang. So the employers were requesting us, what do you mean by Klang? What is the definition of Klang? Which district is governed by Klang? So those are the issues that were imposed to us. And when you say bersyarat, what do you mean by bersyarat? So those are the issues that was mingling around. And when we call the hotline being certain hotline, unfortunately the operator were not able to answer. There was one time even I had some difficulties. I called the hotline and the operator mentioned to me, Encik telefon balik pukul 12 malam. Can you imagine? The SOP will be enforced tomorrow, and some this was my experience. I had to call them back at 12 o'clock at night, whereby the SOP will be enforced 12:01, just a minute after that. So those are the issues that we face as employers, because sometimes the issue of even the hotline operators are not clear of the instruction or any announcement by the senior minister of defense, and so these are the issues that is ongoing, but we understand the government is also having difficulties in dealing with the pandemic, but we hope that in the near future some of these items that we have discussed can be improved. Okay, and then cost of implementation. Sometimes the cost of the implementation is too burdening the employer. For example, if you want the employer to bear the cost of the RTK swab test, it will cost the employer around 60 ringgit to 300 ringgit per person. And at this juncture, we are not in a good, we don't have a prudent finance status. For a lot of companies, they are still struggling even to pay the basic salary, and yet they have to cover all this cost. Cost of implementing such a SOP. For example, now we need all the foreign worker which is not under SOCSO to whereby the employer need to bear every single individual, and the cost is not cheap. The cost is not cheap, even though you say no, you just pay the service charge and the rest will be covered by SOCSO. Still it's money for certain employers, that one day maybe one day salary for one staff. So those are the issues that we are still facing as employers organization. And then we do have issues of human resource and industrial relation issues. For example, now if you have to shut down operation, so there's a lot of issues here that the employer need to handle, because once you cannot service your contract, then it is a breach of contract. Then all the human resource issues, industrial relation issues will emerge, and the relationship between the employer and employee is no longer there, and there will be some legal implication due to termination, due to retrenchment, and so on. So this is the summary that we see what's happening when every SOP is being issued by the government. Sometimes, I'm not saying all, but we do have a problem. We do have problem in executing all the SOPs. Okay, so as I have mentioned earlier, sometime we had to translate. We had to translate the National Security Council document, SOPs, because some of the CEOs they want the English version. I did had one experience with one company, whereby the company was in direct selling. The company was in direct selling, and the CEO is okay with the SOP except for one, which is the physical distancing, because being in a direct selling, physical distancing is very crucial to get sales and to be in service to the customer. So he was not comfortable with having the physical distancing SOP. So he asked one of the seniors to identify where is this from, this physical distancing. Is it in the National Security Council SOPs and so on? And of course it was in the SOP, but unfortunately it was in Bahasa, and he was not convinced. So I tried to convince the company by giving some instruction through email. So these are the issues now. But if it is in English, I'm not saying we don't need a Bahasa version, we need both, especially for our members in the East Coast. They refer to the Bahasa Melayu version, but for those who are in Klang Valley, most of them wish that the SOPs are in English for them to refer. So that would be one of the issues that we can improve further, because I believe that this COVID-19 will be prolonged. So it's important that we try to assist the employers by having both a version. Okay, and of course when you need time to translate and you cannot automatically implement, then it delay time of response, then this is not, this will jeopardize the security and safety of employees at the workplace. Okay, and then we do, as I have mentioned, quarantine. Quarantine, it is a clear, if you study the guideline by Ministry of Health, the definition of quarantine is clear, but somehow to the employer is not clear. To the employees is not clear. When you say quarantine, who has the power to execute quarantine? Are we employers allowed to quarantine our staff in the hostel, for example? Are we allowed to quarantine our staff in their home? So these were the issue that was raised to MEF during the early execution of SOP by Ministry of Health. So we had to explain to them, no, quarantine is instruction and gazetted by Ministry of Health, and we employer, we have no power to quarantine people. We can only instruct our employees to work from home. That can be done, but to quarantine people, no such thing, because that is the power given by the law to Ministry of Health. So those were the issues in the beginning, for example, because somehow quarantine was not being fully understood by the employers community. And then zone, color zone, even up to this day, a few days ago, I still had some inquiry on a zone. What do you mean by green zone? What do you mean by orange zone? What do you mean by green, yellow, green, orange and red zone? So some employers are not clear, and when you say it is a red zone, what does it mean? Can we go out? Can we go in to the zone? Or is it by police permission? Or is it so do we need to do swab tests after we come out from the red zone? So those are the issues that members of us are still inquiring, because somehow the zone are not clear to them. So somehow we need to make sure that the employers are clear with all the definition, then only they can execute accordingly. Work from home, this is very troubling for the time being, unfortunately, because we do have cases, some companies call us, the definition not clear, and we do have our staff. Encik Fahmi, staff saya dah balik ke Kedah. Dia dah balik Kedah, pada dia rumah dia kat Kedah, dekat Kulim. Jadi when I call him up to come back to the office because we need to settle something urgent, he cannot come because of the MCO. So these are the issues. Some of the workers are having their own definition on working from home. So there was one case whereby the person was already in Kulim, and the company did ask him to come back to settle urgent matter in the office, but he was not able to come because of the blockade and so on. So these are issues that we see when we don't have a clear definition. People start to have their own definition. When people have their own definition, and normally the tendency for them to define something according to their will and according to their favor. So these are the issues whereby we need to make sure that every critical terminology are being thrashed out in our SOP. Okay, I'll give you another example. This is another issue in terms of inconsistency. We can see that, for example, under DOSH, prosedur kerja selamat, pencegahan, typo error there. DOSH, prosedur kerja selamat, prosedur kerja selamat pencegahan COVID-19 di tempat kerja yang telah diwartakan ataupun dikeluarkan oleh pihak JKKP pada 9 Jun. Di bawah 5.2 prosedur saringan suhu badan, ada satu prosedur di bawah arahan DOSH, di bawah prosedur saringan suhu badan, di mana rekod pemeriksaan saringan kesihatan hendaklah disimpan dalam tempoh 3 bulan. Dan bila kita baca lebih lanjut, ada borang saringan yang perlu diisi. Bermaksud di sini majikan perlu merekodkan, membuat saringan kesihatan para pekerja dan pelawat, dan kemudian mengisi borang. Ada borang dia dalam SOP tu, ada borang saringan kesihatan, dan termasuk bacaan suhu badan. Jadi katakanlah orang tu datang suhu badannya 36.5, kena tulis dalam borang tu 36.5. Itu ialah prosedur yang ada dalam DOSH lah. Tetapi dalam masa yang sama, Jabatan Perlindungan Data Peribadi dalam masa yang sama di bawah advisory tata cara pengendalian bagi aktiviti pengumpulan, pemprosesan dan penyimpanan data peribadi oleh premis perniagaan semasa Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan Bersyarat, kita dapati dalam advisory tersebut Jabatan Perlindungan Data Peribadi pada prinsip amnya telah menulis hanya nama, nombor telefon yang boleh dihubungi dan tarikh serta masa ketibaan sahaja yang perlu direkodkan. Jadi kita lihat di sini, we can see here there's a contradiction. One government agency is asking the employer to jot down the screening process, to jot down, and this include bacaan suhu badan, a temperature reading. And another government institution is asking us, just for the sake of contact tracing, just jot down the name, the telephone number and the date of arrival of the person to the institution or to the company. So when you have two authorities coming out with two different set of ruling, it's confusing the employers. It's confusing the employers, and we can see that this is a systematic error now. You go everywhere, you can see people are jotting down their name, the date of arrival, and at the same time they are jotting down the temperature. Why? Because the instruction is not clear from the beginning. So these are the issues that we face as implementer, as employer. Sometimes we have to start to think of, whenever an institution gazette or publish a document, please, you need to read it as the implementer, which is the employer. So, for example, in this case, if you just follow the DOSH instruction, then you can be prosecuted by the Jabatan Perlindungan Data Peribadi. So you can be prosecuted, you can be penalized, and there are penalties to it, monetary and also jail term. So these are the issues that the government needs to corroborate before issuing any instruction to the employers, because at the end of the day it's the employers that need to implement, and if we violate even a single case, then it is punishable by law. So these are the issues that we see that we need improvement in whenever government issue any document to the employers society for them to implement. Ini contoh sajalah, yang banyak lagi sebenarnya. Jadi kalau kita boleh pastikan SOP yang kita keluarkan untuk majikan patuhi itu selaras, seragam, tidak mengelirukan, lebih mudah pihak majikan lah. Tetapi kita masih dah berapa bulan dah ni, kita dalam krisis ni dah 7 bulan, dan semua yang saya bincang dan kongsi ni masih lagi terpakai, masih lagi ada di dalam website jabatan-jabatan berkenaan. Okey, satu lagi contoh, kita tengok di dalam MOH punya annex, annex 25, what does it say? Any accompanying person should also wear a surgical mask. Ini arahan Ministry of Health. Kalau ada kes positif di tempat kerja, ada kes positif dari kalangan para pekerja, so if we suspect that our worker is having a positive, having the symptom, so whoever is accompanying the person need to wear a surgical mask. Okay, so surgical mask according to Ministry of Health is sufficient. And you read again in prosedur kerja selamat pencegahan COVID-19 di tempat kerja oleh JKKP, what does it say? ART, Emergency Response Team yang terlibat bagi mengendalikan pekerja bergejala hendaklah mematuhi prosedur yang telah ditetapkan serta dilengkapi dengan PPE dalam kurungan penutup hidung sama dengan Ministry of Health, penutup mulut, gaun perubatan, ini dah tak sama. Ini dah tak sama. There was no mention of having a gown under Ministry of Health for the workplace. And then face shield, pelindung muka dan sarung tangan. So you can see here again, we have two documents from the government which is not in harmony with each other. So this again make it difficult for the employers. So again, I have to stress that you have to look yourself as the implementer when you write all this. And number two, it is important for you when you do write document, you need to make sure that the document are under your management of control procedures, because sometimes it becomes obsolete dah tak terpakai. Unfortunately, if you go to the government's agency website, it is still there. It is not under archive. It is still in there. And if you are not familiar with the subject matter, then you click to the website and try to study and try to implement, then you'll get confused. So these are the issues that we need to fine tune as a nation. We have to manage our document. We have to make sure that the document are not confusing the end user. Okay. So those are the issues that I can see our employers are facing currently. And of course, when you have documents contradicting each other, most of us, including myself, sometimes we call the hotline. We call the hotline, either it is a CPRC hotline, or it can be a state government hotline, just to get clarification. But unfortunately, there's some miscommunication maybe in the institution, whereby sometimes the operator are not clear, even they are not clear with the document. Even if they are clear, there are still contradiction, because whatever is written in the SOP from one institution to another contradicts each other. So these are the issues that we hope that can be settled soon by the government, so that we can really respond swiftly to any issues on COVID-19. And as I have mentioned, in any crisis, we have to have the mindset that this is critical. We need swift response. We need everything clear quickly. Then we can execute. But sometimes this doesn't happen. We have to wait for further instruction. We have to wait for clarity. Then only we can implement. So hopefully, I think we are no longer in the learning curve about COVID-19. We are matured already, so whatever document that we have is supposed to reflect that. Okay, moving on. As I have mentioned, to work from home, I've seen some organization are spending some money, especially on internet facility, on giving the employees with IT gadgets, so that at least they can work from home. And this is happening as we speak. And just yesterday, somebody asked me, Encik Fahmi, can our company give handphone to our staff, and we potong gaji, whatever it is, sikit from his salary, so that at least he can work. So those are the issues that we see, because now working from home is one method during the crisis. But as I have mentioned, when you talk about working from home, we still need a clear definition. When you say what do we mean by working from home? What is the time frame of working from home? Because the relationship between an employee and an employer is on the relationship of time working. Because if there's no specific time working, then there's no relationship between the employers and the employees. In the event of an accident happening in the home setting, who is responsible? So those are interrelated issues when we talk about working from home, which yet have been thrashed out properly, because the instruction by the government is work from home, fine, but what's the definition? What is the scope of application? So this must be thrashed out. If not, as I mentioned earlier, we do have cases, people working from home from Kulim, for example, and his office is in KL, and when the need arises that he need to be physically in the office, then we are in trouble. So these are the issues. that we see. Okay, and then we have the swab test issue. I don't know whether swab test is a effective way of just identifying the cases, because we don't control the whole lot. Because if you have a swab test, then the person is free to go anywhere, then it defeats the purpose of having the swab test. So when you have a swab test implementation, you have to make sure that whoever undergo the swab test are being confined, control movement, then only it will. If you just give the employer the liberty to go for swab test and then he still can go elsewhere, then it doesn't work. To me, it doesn't work, then it defeats the purpose, and the cost is very high. Per person is 60 to can go up to 300 ringgit, right? So it's a matter of doing it right. The strategy must be right. If not, it defeat the purpose of having those swab tests lah. There was one time this company called me up, Encik Fahmi, now we can only work 3 days per week. Apa jadi lepas 3 days 1 week? Must we go for swab test? Must we go for swab test? So we had that kind of confusion among our implementer. Okay, and in the beginning, in early of the crisis, one of the requirement whereby every company only 2 person are allowed in the praying room in the surau. So this was a bit impractical because, for example, we did have some phone calls from the manufacturing members, whereby if you put only 2 people in the surau, it will definitely disrupt the whole production line, because we need to make sure that production lines goes on. But if only 2 person, then how long must we wait for these people to finish their prayers? If they can go in one go, everybody can have a Semayang Jemaah, then it would be better for the production line. So these are the issues that we had with our members during the early stage of the crisis. And of course, when we have this crisis, a lot of people are out of business. A lot of companies are out of business, and we have seen issues of human resource and industrial relation issues. This is not actually my cup of tea, but at least these are what are being put forward to me by the other consultants of MEF, whereby quarantine is a very big issue. How to handle quarantine. So if the person is instructed by the government to go for a quarantine, what is that? Is it a hospitalization leave? Is it sick leave? So those are the issues relating to industrial relation. Should we discount their annual leave, or should we discount the medical leave? So these are the issues still tangling or still with our members now. When you do quarantine orders, then sometimes they have implication on human resource and also industrial relation. To treat it as a sick leave or to treat it as a hospitalization. So these are the issues of the HR practitioner. And then if the employer requests the employees to stay away from work due to whatever reason, especially due to the person is traveling and so on, just came back from overseas, so we require him to work from home, for example, then there will be human resource implication and so on. Okay, so for example, if the employee who do not wish to work on their own accord, as precaution, meaning refuse to come to work, so can this be a disciplinary issue and so on? So these are the pending issues we see among our members. And also traveling, this was in the early stage, but now I think traveling is clear, because we cannot go beyond our borders. Then the issue of travel advisory is no longer there, but it used to be a big issue during the early crisis, because people are still traveling around for business purposes, and this create some anxiety among the employers, whether to ask them to work from home or to quarantine from home and so on. Okay, and as we speak, these are the current issues. These are the current issues that we see. The employers are having difficulties in human resource planning, and then issues of unpaid leave, issues of utilization of annual leave. So these are the issues, human resource issues that we can see now among the human resource practitioner. Claim by employees due to termination upon company closing. We do have cases, a lot of company are closing down because they cannot afford to stay afloat. They cannot afford to continue their operation, and this will result in termination. It will result in issues such as employee reason. So all of these issues are emerging now due to COVID-19. So we need some form of a legal act, some act to cover all this, because it is beyond the current Employment Act and also the Human Resource Act. Not Human Resource, Employment Act, sorry. So these are based on our roller coaster experience with COVID-19. We hope that the government can consider any SOP for implementing COVID-19 prevention is in both versions, in Bahasa Malaysia and also in English. And before it is issued, please make sure that the content are consistent, regardless if it is from DOSH, if it is from Ministry of Human Resource, from SOCSO. If you are talking about the same thing, then make sure that the instructions are all the same. If not, as I have presented here, it will create confusion among the implementer, among the employer. Critical terminology which I did presented. Work from home, what do you mean by work from home? Quarantine, what do you mean by quarantine? Not in the sense of the ministry definition, but when if it is implemented at the workplace. So what do we mean by quarantine? We know there's a definition, quarantine, by Ministry of Health, but that is for their operational implementation. But when you have an effect of quarantine to the workplace, so what do you mean by quarantine? So these are the definition that must be cleared by the authority, because it affects people at the workplace, and some definition are only for that particular ministry, and it is not suitable when you try to implement it to the workplace setting. So critical terminology must be thrashed out, must be gazetted properly, so that it will give us all a clear meaning, and we can implement it accordingly. Okay, and we do acknowledge that the government is trying their best to settle off this confusion, conflict, and so on by implementing the Act 829 temporary measure for reducing the impact of coronavirus. And I have read through the content. One of the content is talking about meetings. You can, for the time being, waive meeting, and the other one is talking about what was it? Contract. If you are not able to perform your contract, so we acknowledge that the government is swiftly responding to this. Thank you to the government for looking into the matter. The only caution that we hope that the government, when they implement the Act 829, please implement it justly. Not just in favor of the employees alone or in favor of the employer alone. Look into the context of the problem and try to harmonize and corroborate and make sure that whatever implementation of the Act, temporary measure, is fair for both the employer and also the employees. Because we do have too many cases now of termination, retrench, and so on, that can cause a problem in terms of human resource. And I was told that the cases are piling up in the Labour Department, piling up in the Industrial Court. So hopefully by having this temporary measure act, we can ease the burden of the employer and so employees in terms of human resource and also industrial relation. Okay, and bear in mind that employer are shouldering the cost for PPE, the mask, the glove, whatever PPE needed, the sanitization substances, and also healthcare are borne by the employer for the workers. So we hope that the government can consider a bigger margin for subsidization of such element, because the company are still struggling to go through this process, the crisis. So we hope that the government can subsidize all of this element. And we acknowledge MEF is of the view that wage subsidies being implemented by the government is crucial for the business. So it's crucial. We hope that the program will be prolonged, provide allocation to create job need to extend, good move, and make sure that the government can have program for reskilling whoever is being retrenched, and upskilling people who need those skills for them to further improve the company. So we want to see that also. Tax relief for work from home investment, for example, internet bill, new gadget, the buying of a laptop, all of this should be given tax relief. Employers are really hoping that the moratorium would be extended, especially business loan, so that they can sustain their operation. And of course, we hope that the government can consider seriously tax relief for year 2020 and beyond. As long as the case COVID-19 is here, then hopefully the government will consider tax relief for whatever COVID-19 prevention program is done at the workplace. I think that's all from me. Are we on time? Thank you again for the organizer for inviting MEF. Hopefully that as a nation we can improve together. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. So saya berdiri sini.
All right, thank you so much, Haji Anis. That was great. And judging from the responses from the chat on Zoom, apparently your presentation was the best presentation for today. So, okay, congrats is in order. That was the best. Also for me, I actually really paid attention this time, honestly. Okay, so we have a question from Anil M. I. Raman again. So he's asking, are there any proactive measures that MEF are taking in order to support COVID-19 efforts in implementing preventive measures with the government? Let's say specific industry SOPs.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for the question. Currently, we are engaged quite closely with ILO, International Labour Organization. They do have documents on COVID-19, and it is a public document. I think you can browse it and download it. But we are an NGO. Our function is to voice out the interests of employers to the government. So in terms of memorandum, in terms of having meeting with the government to improve the situation. So we are using all the channels that are within our capacity. But in terms of specific SOP, we don't want to confuse the employees beyond whatever is already being gazetted by the government. So whatever government has already gazetted, we support fully, and we ask the employers to strictly follow and adhere to those instructions. Because if you add on to the list, then it's going to be very cumbersome for the employers to follow. So whatever is out there is, to us, is sufficient, and even some of them should be revoked. If you look at it, some are not even practicable. But I don't want to go there. But as far as SOP are concerned, to us, whatever is being issued by the Majlis Keselamatan Negara is more than sufficient, as long as we are obeying to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. I hope that answers your question, Anil. We also have another question from an anonymous attendee, and the question goes, if a person is told to be working from home and that person is currently being tracked because employers force these employees to track their location wherever they are. Is that considered ethical? Is it allowed? And how does MEF go about these acts?
Okay, these are the emerging issues that we see when we do some implementation of this working from home. As I have mentioned earlier, working from home by definition is not clear. So when we don't have a clear instruction and definition and terminology, then operational wise it's going to be very difficult. And there's no right or wrong for the time being because we don't have a black and white document on work from home. But we do acknowledge International Labour Organization is requesting member countries not to monitor the activity of employees at home. They are recommending that every work done at home is based on output. So you give the person an assignment, you give the person work, then just monitor the output, not the process of producing the output. But that's a very general term. We still need to look into the specific terminology. This is where in my presentation, I did stress many times that work from home need a clear definition. And I'm not here to say this is ethical, this is not ethical. Ethical and not ethical is based on definition. But now, unfortunately, we don't have. Then it's quite difficult for me to comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again for that. I think that kind of makes sense. Output is way more important when it comes to work than the process itself, because in the end is what matters. And we have time for one more question, and it's also from an anonymous attendee. It's also concerning MEF. Does MEF cover East Malaysia, specifically Sabah, Sarawak?
Okay, the answer is yes. We cover both Sabah, Sarawak, and Peninsula. We do have an office in Sabah, and we do have an office in Sarawak. Both are in KK, and the other one is in Kuching. And we do have a consultant. We have two consultants to cover the two states. Yes, we operate there also.
Okay, thank you for that, Haji Anis. And apparently we have reached the end of our day one. So again, thank you, Haji Anis, for that wonderful speech. That was a great speech. Everyone enjoyed it, and everyone agreed that was the best speech today. So now we're going to have a fun time. The quiz, of course. So for those of you who have joined before, you may join again, take a shot at winning the quiz. For those of you who have won, you will not be eligible to win again, but you can still join just for fun, if you want to. Okay, so as usual, you're going to have to log in with your name and your phone number, preferably your first name and your own personal phone number, so it will be easy for us to contact you if you win the quiz. So please, again, use your first name and your phone number. So, see that link? Go to joinmyquiz.com and click in the number 989783. And I repeat, go to joinmyquiz.com, key in the number 989783. You have 3 minutes to join, because earlier we believe a lot of people didn't get to join, so now we're giving you 3 minutes to join. All right, so we have 127 participants, 128 now. We have a minute and a half left. So to those of you who really want to join, take a shot at this quiz, do join this quiz now. You have 1 minute. So for those of you who are going to win this quiz, for the first prize, you'll be winning Sunway Lagoon tickets for 2 adults and 2 kids. For the second prize, you'll get 4 adult tickets to Skytrex. Pretty good steal since we don't really have anything to do since COVID-19. So we have exactly 1 minute left. Join in 989783. We have 148 people in now. 149. Right, 30 seconds left. Oh, sorry. 20 seconds left. Okay, so 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's go with 161 people. Okay, so apparently we already have our winners now. So congratulations to first place Khairul Afandi and second place Rahmat. We'll be contacting you soon regarding your prizes, so stay tuned for that. And soon we have a little bit of time. I'm obliged to tell you that you also have to register for a Google document that we've sent for session 1, and it's only for session 1. And this is only for data purposes for us, so we can tally between the registration that you've done earlier today. This is only to ensure that the information is accurate to the ones that we currently have. So please, by all means, register. It's really important for you guys. Your attendance matters to us. Also, I'm also obliged to tell you that we still have a Facebook competition. So log on to our Facebook, post a photo of you joining OSH Connect, or a video or TikTok, whatever. Post it on social media, on FB, and tell people how OSH Connect is different from any other event that you've been to with the hashtag OSH Connect Virtual 2020. And this competition will be live until noon tomorrow, and until then we're closing it. So because there's very minimal entry, there's huge opportunity for you. You can win that thing. Those are great prizes. You can view info on our FB too. So that basically it. That concludes day 1 for OSH Connect 2020. Very proud of you guys. Very happy with today. We had really good speeches, and I hope everyone had a good time. We'll see you again tomorrow.